Hey everyone, I'm Josh Davis and welcome to the Philly Special. I'm a lifelong Eagles fan who was born and raised in Dallas. I'm looking forward to bringing you all the latest Eagles news while providing my takes, thoughts, and insights. In today's show, we'll break down the gut-wrenching Super Bowl defeat, take a look at a Chiefs player saying Jalen Hurts could have very easily won the MVP even in the loss, and we'll go over some potential big rule changes in the NFL that could handicap Philly. And I'll even give you my thoughts on why the Eagles offense will be even more explosive next season. But first, let's run it. All right, so Super Bowl 57 didn't go our way. What a tough loss. I still can't get over it. I'm gutted. The game started out with so much promise. The Eagles marched down the field, imposing our will. The rugby scrum pushed their way into the end zone with Jalen, which may be illegal next year, but more on that later. After the first drive, I thought to myself, okay, you know what? Let's see what the defense can do. One of the best defenses in the NFL. Yeah, they got Mahomes, but we'll see. But as everyone knows, the question we were left with the entire game was, where's the D? Like seriously though, where was the defense? Sure, the holding call at the end, yeah, that was atrocious. I hate the Zebras making such an impactful call late in the game. Feel for James Bradbury, but you know what? The field was also not great. There's a possibility the Chiefs were given a little bit of a heads up on the footing that was required. Is that possible? Sure. But you know what? I've resolved to the fact that we can't get the game back. It's over. And I'm trying to look at it at a glass half full. So I think the silver lining is, if there's any from this, it's probably good that Jonathan Gannon is leaving. Don't get me wrong, our defense was great all year. Gannon deserves credit. But I don't think he's the right guy to scheme against the very best offenses in the NFL. I mean, look at the Chiefs game. Look at the Super Bowl. Hopefully, Philly can bring in the mastermind who can rise to the occasion on the biggest stages, and we'll see. But back to the Super Bowl. A Chiefs player was on record saying Jalen could have very easily won the Super Bowl MVP. And by now, you've probably all heard the soundbite from Patrick Mahomes saying Jalen could have or silenced all doubters based on his performance. But did you hear what Chiefs tight end Travis Kelce said on his New Heights podcast with Jason Kelce? Take a look.
A guy that made very few mistakes. Jalen Hurts, man. Not bad for a system quarterback. Patrick Mahomes
arguably could have had the MVP, even with the loss. How many touchdowns? How he he was lights out with his feet, with his arm, you name it, man. He was playing his tail off.
That's some serious high praise, especially for the tight end on the opposing team when your own quarterback just won Super Bowl MVP. And I get it. Some people have said, what's he supposed to say? He's in a podcast with Jason Kelce. He's got to offer up some sort of praise. Okay, sure. But it's not like Travis Kelce has to say, yeah, he should have won Super Bowl MVP instead of my own quarterback. I think that just goes to show that Jalen was dominant. Outside of the lone blemish that he had whenever it led to a Chiefs scoop and score, Hurts was near perfection. Not only did Jalen finish with 304 passing yards, he had one touchdown throwing, 27 of 38 on passing attempts. Pro Football Focus shared that his rushing stats afterward, Jalen ranked number 1 in the Super Bowl history in terms of yards after contact, and first down conversions rushing. And oh yeah, he ran for 3 touchdowns. No doubt the man's about to get paid. Should Jalen have won Super Bowl MVP? Let me know in the comments below. The next story pertains to the NFL handicapping the birds. For real though, the NFL is seriously considering banning the QB sneak, rugby scrum, push across the line, whatever you want to call it. Check out this article from Garrett Podell. It's entitled, Ex-NFL VP of Officiating Would Be Shocked If QB Sneak Push Wasn't Banned by the Start of the 2023 Season. So in it, he says, for years, Bill Belichick and the New England Patriots were the standard for exploiting strategic loopholes in the NFL rulebook until rule changes occurred. Now, the 2022 NFC champion Philadelphia Eagles are the cause for a possible rulebook change regarding the way they run their quarterback sneak plays. The Eagles utilized a formation that many have likened to a rugby scrum to power Jalen Hurts, listed at 6'1" and 223 pounds, ahead for first downs and touchdowns on their sneak plays, a play design that was nearly unstoppable. Philadelphia converted 37 of their 41 quarterback sneak attempts into first downs or touchdowns, the most conversions and attempts by a wide margin in the 2022 season. No other offense has picked up 20 first downs on QB sneaks in a single season across the last 15 years. Look at the numbers there. Eagles are 37 for 41. The Browns are the next closest at 17 for 20. I mean, the numbers speak for themselves. He goes on to say, the inevitability of this play has led many, including Dean Blandino, a football rules expert for Fox Sports and the 33rd team, who served as the NFL's vice president of officiating from 2013 to 17, to believe that the league's competition committee is not going to allow this version of the Eagles quarterback sneak to continue to be run. Blandino says, I think the league is going to look at this, and I'd be shocked if they don't make a change. Blandino goes on to say, I was talking to Denver Broncos head coach Sean Payton during Sunday's game, the Super Bowl, and he said, we're going to do this every time next season if they don't take it out, Blandino said. It amounts to a rugby scrum. The NFL wants to showcase the athleticism and skill of our athletes. This is just not a skillful play. This is just a tactic that is not aesthetically pleasing, and I think the competition committee is going to take a look at it, end quote. Of course they're going to take a look at it. I mean, obviously, because if this is being brought up by Blandino, that's what the NFL is going to do. If someone figured out a way to be really effective, then they need to change the rules. It's unbelievable, really. I mean, of course, this is going to impact the Eagles because this is one of the best plays for the Eagles. But you know what? It's going to impact every team, obviously, but no team was even close. I mean, look at what the numbers suggested there. 37 for 41. I mean, that's an automatic. We saw it all throughout the year. It's a huge discrepancy. I mean, look, I'm all for using the rules committee to benefit the game, but it just feels like the Eagles found an ingenious way to get a first down, and other teams with maybe not as physical quarterbacks or offensive lines started whining. And really, Sean Payton, how stupid is that? You're really going to line up and run it every single down? No, you're not. In no world are you running a QB sneak every single down. And not only would it be terribly ineffective, you think Russell Wilson's going to sign up for that? Not a chance. But go ahead, run it every single play. If it feels like one team's getting heavily penalized much more than the others, it's because they are. But even with the more difficult road, I'm confident that it won't matter. Jalen will be even more developed, and sounds like they're going to be opening up the playbook for him even more than they already have. Check out this next story from Rochelle Prevet of Bleeding Green Nation. She writes, quote, the busy Eagles offseason has officially begun. On Wednesday morning, ESPN's Adam Schefter reported that Eagles QB coach Brian Johnson will replace former offensive coordinator Shane Steichen, who was introduced Tuesday as the Indianapolis Colts' new head coach. With the Eagles' success this season and Jalen Hurts' insane development, we all knew that there was a strong possibility that we'd see Steichen move on. It was only right to promote from within the organization to a guy who is certainly qualified for the job and has the trust of Jalen Hurts. On the EPA podcast number 17, Victor Williams shared his thoughts on the move. Quote, I think the offense could benefit from some fresh new ideas because as great as Shane Steichen was, he was very, very good for the offense this year. I do think Jalen Hurts bailed him out at times when things kind of broke down and Jalen Hurts had to make something out of nothing or make plays happen with his legs or just had phenomenal throws that had bailed out questionable play designs. Johnson, a young offensive mastermind, has a bright future ahead. He was the offensive coordinator for the University of Florida and helped get Kyle Trask and Kyle Pitts to the NFL. He also played a significant role in Dak Prescott earning all SEC honors while at Mississippi State. Shane Half explained, let's be honest, the Eagles ran a high school offense, and I don't mean that as a negative. The Eagles had a simple offense. It's RPOs, it's zone reads, it's smash, it's dagger, verticals. That's the kind of menu of concepts that they had. They executed them to perfection. They said, our line is better than you are. Our receivers are better than your corners. Our quarterback is better than your linebackers. We're just going to beat you however you give it to us, and we don't have to reinvent the wheel. I do think you're going to have to expand it a little bit moving forward because teams are going to have a whole offseason to study that now, and they're going to come back with a better plan. I don't think Shane Steichen was incapable of doing that, but you bring in Brian Johnson, it brings in some new ideas as well, end quote. I agree. You're giving teams an entire offseason to prepare for Jalen Hurts, and you know what? Get ready for what they're going to be able to game plan against him. But at the same time, I mean, I think the positives are you're giving him an extra offseason to look at the different nuances and creativity to an already, let's be honest, unstoppable offense. And we saw what he did in the Super Bowl, who's the arguable Super Bowl MVP, ad-libbing, creating plays from nothing. You throw in Brian Johnson into the mix. I mean, I'm excited to see what he can do. He's going to improve. Brian Johnson has a very successful track record. I mean, come on. You took Dak Prescott to an all-SEC level at Mississippi State. I mean, that speaks for itself. We know Dak Prescott, and quite honestly, Jalen's potential far exceeds Dak. It's not even close. So the offensive unit will be just fine. I'm not concerned one bit. Honestly, not one bit concerned. really what I'm looking forward to is to see what the defense has in store. I know there's interviews, there's potentials with what's going on, and we'll keep you up to date all throughout. Latest news, mock drafts, free agency signings, and what else to expect throughout the regular season or the off season leading up to the regular season. But thanks again for joining. This was the first show. A special shout out to my buddy Thomas Mott of the Thomas Mott Show for encouraging me to do this, to my family. If you're not subscribed to Thomas's channel and somehow found mine first, I highly recommend checking his out. But again, appreciate it. Until next time, I'm Josh Davis, and this has been the Philly Special.